On the eve of the final scheduled session day where they plan to adjourn at the Illinois Statehouse, Illinois taxpayers don't know how the state plans to spend their money, but hey, we've got a state mushroom. That's right, a state mushroom. Welcome in. It's Bishop on Air. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. And don't forget, go to thecentersquare.com/Illinois, where you can stay updated with what's going on at the Illinois Statehouse. It's what I do for my full-time gig. It's a nonprofit newswire service. You can donate, you can sign up for the newsletter, and stay plugged in with what's going on at the State House. So here we are. Today, Friday, May 24th, is the scheduled adjournment date for the House and the Senate, and we still don't have a budget. We were thinking that they could possibly drop the budget and have a first reading and get it through one chamber and then to the next chamber today, and then possibly have to stay past into midnight after Saturday, early Saturday morning. We could have it all wrapped up, but we didn't get a budget last night. So that means we could possibly see a long session day today, maybe some negotiations in closed doors, maybe we'll see the budget drop at some point today, but then they're going to have to bring it up on Saturday and possibly go into Sunday morning early. So that's something that we're hearing at the Illinois Statehouse. $50+ billion, right? The governor proposed $52.7 billion spending plan back in February. But as the months progressed, it became more clear that, well, that's not necessarily going to be the grand total of the budget, because part of that included more than $1 billion of tax increase proposals that Governor J.B. Pritzker had made. And that included increasing taxes on sports betting companies, doubling their tax rates, which opponents of it say that's just going to be pushed down to those who do sports betting. There was also a proposal to cap the retailers' credits they get for collecting sales taxes for state and local governments. That had a lot of pushback. You had another measure, $500 million worth, that was going to be capping the losses that businesses could take on their taxes. So a lot of businesses, the Chamber of Commerce, of course, chambers of commerce across the state opposing that, and even some changes to the standard deduction for taxes. So clearly, the idea was, hey, we're going to, have this new revenue from the proposed tax increases, but haven't really seen support for that or that advance. So that could be a major sticking point amongst the Democratic supermajority, by the way. Also behind closed doors, we're hearing rumblings about whether or not they're going to actually have the member projects, because members of the legislature, they have districts and they've got projects in their districts that they need, and some people call it pork, but it's stuff that's put into the budget to help out the local jurisdiction, but maybe it's also a way to secure some votes to get on the budget. So we still don't know what's going to happen with the budget. They have until May 31st to pass a spending plan with simple majorities. But here we are on the 24th, and we're heading into Memorial Day weekend on Monday. And are they going to go throughout all this weekend and then be done heading into Memorial Day? Or are they going to have to come back after Memorial Day and finish out the month? Again, still have yet to be seen. But if you see the headlines at thecentersquare.com, we have an official mushroom. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We have an official mushroom. While Illinois taxpayers are in the dark on budget details, day before adjournment, they left the Capitol last night late without actually having a budget. But one thing they did do is they passed a measure to make a official state mushroom. Now, the metaphor for mushrooms in government, I don't know if you guys know this one. Are you familiar with it? There's the saying that staffers and rank and file, I would argue even members of the media, are treated like mushrooms at the Capitol. They're kept in the dark and they're fed manure. So we get an official mushroom yesterday, a bipartisan plan to have an official state mushroom. But still no budget. So clearly details on that will get out as we get them, and you can find that at thecentersquare.com. Some of the other headlines you'll see at thecentersquare.com. Illinois legislators approve a plan to assess mental health screenings in public schools. And this has got a lot of people riled up about whether or not you're going to have some privacy concerns and long-lasting impacts on K through 12 students who might have some kind of mental health assessment that is going to be with them for the rest of their existence. And I've got an interesting story about how this could impact somebody long term. You've got this idea of assessing somebody's mental health at an early age, and maybe they get a diagnosis of some kind, or maybe they're being given a medication at some time in an early part of their life, and that could be a red flag for things later down the road. For instance, I had a friend back in middle school and high school, smart dude. I mean, he was just smart as a whip, read all kinds of history, knew math in and out, just, was very attentive in class. But apparently he had to take some kind of, antidepressant or something to that effect while he was in high school. And when he was graduating high school, he was lining up to go to West Point. Because he wanted to be in the military. And from my understanding, he was not allowed into West Point because of the so-called mental health issues that they perceived he had from his medication. So, I mean, that's just one example of how, something early in an individual's life could have long-lasting impacts. But then you get into other questions, right? I mean, what if a kid is diagnosed with depression, even if they weren't depressed? It's just, they're going through puberty or whatever. Could that possibly be on their permanent record? I mean, and how could that impact, say, their rights to keep and bear arms, for instance? So, I've had people share with me that even their wives who go into postpartum depression, they might have a red flag and prohibiting them from having a Second Amendment issue because they went to go get medical treatment for it. So, yeah, it's something that has people concerned, but this measure that passed the Statehouse, Illinois legislators approved plan to assess mental health screenings in public schools. And let's just read through this. My colleague Kevin Bessler put this together after a measure, Senate Bill 726, passed the House and is now on the way to the governor. So what it does, it would direct the Illinois State Board of Education to assess school districts' readiness for universal mental health screenings of students. And it passed the Senate unanimously earlier this month. The sponsor said that we are in a mental health crisis for children. I, others in this chamber, and the executive branch leaders believe that we have to be thoughtful and systematic in our work to build up the system. If signed into law, the State Board of Education will have until April of next year to report back to the governor and the General Assembly the results of the assessments. But you had state representatives like Adam Niemerg push back, saying that there should be local control for the districts and whether or not they want to take part in this. He says there's no opt-out for school districts, and the parents, such as himself or other members, are not given access to those questions or know exactly what the questions are or what is going to be asked of their children. Others, like Tom Weber, he said that, number one, parents need to be notified. Parents are engaged, and parents will be the first ones to know what kinds of results, if any, come out of any type of universal health screening done to children at schools. But the proponents of this say that it's not going to be a mandate that every child goes through some kind of mental health evaluation. They say that it's just to make sure that there is universal access to mental health screenings if that is what is needed. Then you have another interesting story here, and this one is about a House bill that passed, and it deals with essentially, saying that a parent who has an adult child with disabilities, if they live in subsidized housing, they are not required to have to live in the same room as their adult child with disabilities if they're of the opposite sex. But during debate, State Representative Tara Costa Howard could not define what opposite sex meant during debate. And if you go to thecentersquare.com, you can see this video. Let's go ahead and pull this up so we can hear it.
3351 aligns the state of Illinois with federal HUD standards. It would provide that an elderly parent and their adult child with disabilities of the opposite sex will not be required to share just one bedroom. We want to give people dignity, and this is a way to align the state of Illinois with our federal standards.
Can you explain to us what that means, what opposite sex is?
Oh, Representative, let's go.
What does that mean, though? Define what opposite sex means.
It means as defined in the federal definitions.
That's
I don't have that handy.
Brad Halbrook.
I don't have that information in front of me. I would assume you have that. What does that mean? Help this body understand before we vote on that.
Sure, hold on 1 second. Let me make sure I want to make sure I read that to you correctly. Representative, we'll get back to you on that when we're trying to locate the definition. What's your next question?
That's fine. So what does it mean to you? What does this mean to you? This is your bill, so just explain to this body what that means to you.
Well, frankly, Representative, my personal feelings on that issue are really irrelevant. It's the way that we've written this statute to make sure that we have defined it so that we are in line with the federal guidelines.
So say that again, your personal feelings does not enter into this? Is that what you're saying?
This is the statute.
Okay. All right, well, I think before we vote on this, we really need to know what the definition is. I would like you to expand upon what your personal feelings are, whether it matters or not. I think it's important. Do you feel that the opposite sex or believe that the opposite sex definition is static or is that fluid?
I apologize. Could you say that again? I didn't hear you.
Yeah, so do you believe the definition of opposite sex to be static or is that fluid? Did it change?
Well, I think what my personal feelings on how we define opposite sex are frankly irrelevant. We have to make sure that we are in compliance with the federal guidelines. And so what the federal statute says is what Illinois is going to become in compliance with.
So how do we vote on this if we don't know what the definition of that is? That's kind of important to members in this body, to whether whether it is fluid or otherwise.
Representative, as you know, individuals in this chamber vote however they want, however they feel about a particular policy issue. And so, Representative, if you feel that we should not give individuals dignity, then you vote no. But I'm here, and I believe my side of the aisle is here to make sure that individuals who are in subsidized housing, who have children with adult disabilities that they are continuing to care for, are going to have dignity. So you do you, and we'll.
So Tara Costa Howard saying you do you and we'll do us. So the Democratic supermajority having that bill and advancing it, and for whatever is the substance of the bill, just the fact that it couldn't define opposite sex clearly, definitively. That had some people asking some interesting questions yesterday. So again, a lot happening yesterday. Also in the Senate, they approved an amendment to Governor J.B. Pritzker's change to health insurance plans regulated by the state of Illinois, trying to bring about network adequacy. Republicans say that it's going to essentially raise the cost of insurance across the board, but that passed the Senate. That's got to go back to the House today. So another measure that ultimately advanced. But you have a bill that's ready for the governor's desk. Illinois bill allows out-of-state minors to apply for taxpayer-funded abortions. And this measure sparked some heated debate. House Bill 5329 in the Senate. It's on its way to the governor's desk soon. And essentially what it does is it allows for individuals to cross state lines to get an abortion, but also to apply for the family planning program, taxpayer-funded, that allows for them to get taxpayer-funded abortions in the state of Illinois. But Republican State Senator Jill Tracy, she was concerned that minors would be crossing cross-state lines without a parent knowing, or possibly even, say, for instance, having a really just bad criminal situation of a minor abused by their step parent and the step parent wanting to cover that up. And she said that, this would essentially allow to facilitate that. But it also dealt with sharing information, saying that the state couldn't share information or local governments couldn't share information with out-of-state prosecutors who are trying to prosecute people for abortion. So again, clearly a lot of interesting things being brought up at the Illinois Statehouse. But still no budget. Again, we got a state mushroom, but still no state budget. So go to thecentersquare.com and be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and subscribe to the newsletter. Also, be sure to donate to nonprofit Newswire service. So do what you can to help us out there. But here, you're hanging out in the mornings, and I appreciate you with Bishop on Air. So again, final day of scheduled session, fully anticipating to go into tomorrow, possibly even into Sunday. Will we do a live show on Saturday? Who knows? Maybe. What about Monday? It's Memorial Day. I might just have that day off. We shall see. But yeah, who knows what happens? Follow me on X, on Facebook, on YouTube, and join us elsewhere. Just search Bishop on Air.